Well, welcome to today's webinar. Our webinar today is on Church360 Ledger. It's an overview webinar, and my name is Dave Farnham, and I'm a software consultant here with Concordia Technology Solutions. My contact information is on the screen there in front of you. Unfortunately, I had a little technical difficulty with a camera, so you're not going to see a camera view of me tonight. But this is my picture and my contact information. So you can feel free to contact me should you have any questions in the future as we go along here. Also presenting the software as we take a walkthrough of the software tonight um, is Ken Olemeyer. Ken is with us. He is a senior marketing manager here at Concordia Publishing House. And you'll see his contact information here on the screen in front of you. So, few housekeeping items here for today. We will have approximately 50 minutes for presentations. We actually could get through a little bit quicker here today. We'll have about 10 minutes for questions at the end if we need time for that. You certainly can ask questions throughout. I'll be the one that will be answering questions as we go through the webinar here tonight. And the recording will be shared. So there's always a few people that have signed up that weren't able to attend. And so if that's the case for some of you, we'll still be sending out this recording out to everyone who signed up for the webinar. So we do appreciate you being here tonight for this webinar. Now, Concordia Technology Solutions, we are part of the Concordia Publishing House. We're actually the church administration division of the Concordia Publishing House. So a few interesting things here. I thought I'd show a picture here. This is of our actual booth that we had, the Concordia Publishing House booth, in the 1904 World's Fair, which was actually hosted here in St. Louis. I think that's kind of interesting to see how things were way back then. Of course, there was not any technology, or the technology that we had at the time was not anything that we would consider to be technology nowadays at all. But it is kind of an interesting picture to take a look at there. One of the things that we also show sometimes here is just a picture of our innovation center. And in our innovation center, we do have all kinds of different meetings, and we'll just have different ideas and thoughts. But we've been developing software here at Concordia for churches really since 1984. So we've been in this mode of allowing, or actually creating software for churches for quite some time. So tonight we're going to be looking at Church360 Ledger. And the Ledger product really is a part of the family of Church360 products. It's just one of them. It's kind of a three-legged stool. There's also Church360 members and Church360 Unite. So the how they're defined really is the Ledger is more of your software accounting, and then your Church360 members is really for your membership and attendance and your offering part. The Ledger really is what we would traditionally think of what the treasurer would use there at the church. And then also Unite is a church website builder and really an online communication tool there for you at the church. Now, as I mentioned just a second ago, the Church360 Ledger, it is a church finance software. We've designed this to be the software to be intuitive, as well as to be a secure software for you, and also to be focused on how we do church finances. And it's really focused on the person and individual that would be doing the work of the ministry of the church finances. Couple assumptions that we'll have tonight as we look through the software, that you have some familiarity with church finances, that you're probably new to Church360 Ledger, and then you're also extremely busy. So we do want to use our time wisely here tonight as we're looking at the software. And one of the things when we're talking about finances, we know that's a difficult topic. It really is not an easy thing sometimes for churches to talk about, because we're really about ministry, and we don't want to just talk about money, because sometimes people really begin to think about that. But we do have to think about money when we're becoming good stewards of the resources that we've been given. Every dollar that has been given to the church, we realize it's been donated, so we have to be accountable for that. And every donation comes from a giver who really has given it from their heart. And that's what makes really the stewardship critical. And that's what makes really accounting and accountability for us critical. One of the things that we wanted to make sure as we were creating the software, we wanted to make sure that we were going to prevent the ill intention from doing wrong. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen that often, but every once in a while you might hear of, a situation at a church where something happened where we didn't intend it to happen, or someone did something that maybe embezzled or something like that. It doesn't happen very often. It's very rare, but it does happen and has. We want to make sure that within the software that there's accountability built into that. This next screen really is the next part, because this is 99% of the situations with churches. We have people that really do want to do the work of the ministry of the church, and we want to make sure that they don't make mistakes. And so we want to have a software that's easy to use, that really keeps them from making mistakes. So really it's preventing the well-intentioned from making mistakes. And again, this is 99% of us that do the work of the ministry there at the church. So how do you do this in a congregation? How do you do the financial ministry? Well, for many churches, they may just have a volunteer ministry treasurer at their church. There are some churches that have a paid finance coordinator, or they may have an elected church treasurer, or they may have someone that is elected from their finance board. So Church360 Ledger was designed to really increase the accountability. As we kind of walk through some of those screens, I hope that you're able to kind of get that idea. And it was designed, of course, to help prevent mistakes. What we did, as we were creating the software, we wanted to make sure that we were focusing really on two different types of individuals. Those were your church treasurer, that's like a paid staff member. That person maybe has more of an experienced accountant or experience in accounting, oversees all aspects of the financial ministry of the church, cares about all the details, and he relies on the audit trail, he or she. And the other person that you may find, and this may be in many, many, many churches, and more than the paid treasurer, this will be a willing volunteer. This is somebody who probably just knows, how to balance a checkbook and how to do basic finances within the church. And so they know how to enter transactions, and they care deeply about the ministry of the church. And the main thing for them, they just don't want to make a mistake. They realize that they are not an accountant and haven't been through lots of different accounting software. They don't do this for a living, but they do know how to do finances. So Church360 Ledger provides the accountability that both of these individuals would require. So the webinar today really is just going to be a general overview of the Church360 Ledger. We're going to be kind of taking a look at, at the software, really at like a 30,000 foot level. We're not going to go into the minutia of a lot of different things, but we're going to give you a really good understanding of it. So it's going to be a tour of the software. And then there'll be a time for questions and answers at the end. So what we're going to do really before we get started with that, I'm going to go ahead and transition this over to Ken Olemeyer. And Ken's going to take this from here and begin to show you the software and take the tour with you.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for this. I will go ahead and show my screen. Or why don't you just go keep your screen up for now, Dave, and then
Sure.
I'll grab the screen in a minute. But I did want to thank you for being with us tonight, and we really do appreciate it. We're trying to do an evening one because we know, again, some of the willing volunteers or the full-time accountants may not be able to do this during the day. So we wanted to do this for you this evening. And then if you are watching this at your leisure at another time, again, thank you for being here. As Dave mentioned, my name is Ken Olemeyer. I am a senior manager in the marketing department here at Concordia Publishing House. And while Dave's been working with this software and with Concordia Technology Services for a number of years, I'm still relatively new here. I've been here for a couple of years. And I'm kind of like that willing volunteer that he talked about. I mean, full disclosure, I'm a marketing guy. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a finance guy, but I know enough to balance my checkbook. I know enough how to do online banking and different things here and there. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this software tonight, just to show you how simple and powerful this Church360 Ledger is, and how easy it is to work with, and how it can help keep track of your church's financial state. You know, in my job, I get a chance to go around and talk with many different church leaders. I talk with pastors. I talk with directors of Christian education. I talk with teachers and leaders and elders, people just like you. And one of the things I consistently hear over and over again is our desire to keep our church financially secure, financially sustainable, the ability to be good stewards of the monies that are coming in, and how can we do that very easily? So as Dave said, we're going to just look at this from a 30,000 foot view. We're just going to take a look at the software. What we're going to be talking tonight, you know, we're not going to be able to cover everything in the time that we have tonight. We understand that. Church360 Ledger, as Dave explained, as one of the trio of products, focuses on your church finances. In fact, that's why we call it Ledger. So in tonight's introduction, we're going to talk a little bit about everything. We're going to show a little bit about everything. I'm going to show you how the software is arranged, how it provides a quick glance, as well as a deep dive into your church's finances and your church's financial well-being. I'm going to show you how simple it is, and more importantly, just how automatic it is. Dave talked about, you know, the very difficult to make mistakes within the software. So it's very automatic. If you are an accountant or a financial person and you're comfortable with all of this, you'll see the power of it. If you're a well-intentioned volunteer, you'll just see how simple it is to work through it. So again, unlike other software where you have to do a lot of manual input, a lot of Ledger's power is really behind the scenes, and it's somewhat foolproof. And it will be helpful for you. So it's a lot to cover. So I'm going to switch over to my screen right now and see, okay, there it is. I'm hoping everybody is able to see my screen right now, as well as my webcam. Want to be sure, no issues? Okay, great, no issues on the screen. So you see the screen view right there. So when you sign in to Church360 Ledger, you'll be right at the home screen here. And it seems like a lot of information on this, but it really is an effective dashboard and will help you dig into some things. So as I said, I just want to give you a quick overview tonight of all the different components. So let's just start right at the top on the left side of the screen right there. And you see this dollar sign. The dollar sign is our home button. And we can click on that at any time, and it takes us back to this main screen. To the right of that, you notice when I move my mouse over it, it highlights it. These are our various books, and we're going to talk a little bit about the books. But you see, it's got a drop-down menu. Books are used to organize your transactions that have completely different accounts and income sources. So here you see, if I drop down, you might be able to do, you know, school books, daycare, St. John's Lutheran Church. Let's say you have another church that you deal with, and a men's club, things like this. Now, it's not required to have multiple books as you use Church360 Ledger, but you can make all these different books for different income and really keep everything tight and needy and in one place. We'll get more into books a little bit later. So as we move further down to the right, you see the print button here. This tells you what you have in your print queue. And I'm going to click on that, and you see I've got 3 different checks right here in my print queue right now. So you can print one or multiples. So if I just clicked on this and I hit print, you can see right off the bat how these come up, and it shows me my different checks that I have printed. If there were other things to print in here, it would be in my queue as well. So I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to go back to my home page. Takes me back there. So if you, again, with the print queue, I can hit just select single issues, or I can select all of them, and that gets me to my print. The other thing you'll see too is as we go through here, there's a print button for the other areas as well. Those will open up a new tab and a print preview, and we'll show those later as well. You can also export to Excel, which is very nice if you want to print out hard copies of some of your materials, or you want to personalize it even more, provide some different charts and graphs, or maybe use it for voters meetings or council meetings, etc. Next in our tabs here, our icons, is our pending transactions. This is very straightforward. It's imported from other places here, whether it's checks or deposits like you see here, or maybe Church360 members, how it integrates with that, or other services that we integrate with. Dave and the folks at CTS, as you have questions on this, would be able to help you with any specific questions. But this just gives you a list of recent payments or a list of deposits made. And then you're able to drill down to right in here. So if I were to click on this, I can drill down even further just where these pending transactions came from. I'm just going to click out of that as well. The next icon that we have here on the right is our book of reports. And as you click down here, you see all the possible reports that we currently have. And we'll go over each of these in more detail. But I just wanted to highlight it here so you know where it is. But we have here the general ledger. We have the income and expenses. We have the chart of accounts. We have the balance sheet. And then we also have our event log. And the event log is great because it basically tracks all of the different steps or the different changes, the events that have gone into the software program that you or other people have made. And it's just fantastic for auditing purposes. All right, next to that, you see the cog or the wheel. This is the setting menu. And it's divided into 2 sections, and you see those 2 sections there. The top sections are things that are specific to your current set of books. You know, the chart of accounts, the budgets, the fiscal years, the reoccurring transactions, the imported transactions. And while the icons will always remain the same, the information shown below may change. So for instance, I'm right now on my home screen. If I click into budgets, takes just a second here to move. Click into budgets, you'll see my budget come up here. Oop. I'm going to stop the script, see if I can do that. I may need to just reload my computer right here. Again, the difficulty sometimes when we do these webinars, there it is we have a lot going on with the streaming and the computer. So there we go. We go into our budgets. Now let's say I changed into a different book. You'll just see that a different budget will come up. So while again, those icons are all the same, the information you see will be different on it. So I'm going to go back to my home page again. In fact, I'm going to go back to my Christ Community Church. All right. And then in my cog. So then the next things that are down below that line are things like general settings. And these are, just this is where we name our church, where we do our check styles, different types of things there. We can put our address in there, or we have our users. Again, what's great about Church360 Ledger is you can put in a number of different users into this software. And people, since it's web-based, they can use it from any one of their desktops or laptop, anywhere where you have an internet connection. This information is at your fingertips. And then next, you see roles. And this is another great thing. This assigns which users have which access. So, and this is great to ensure that the right people are able to do just what they need. So again, if you have willing volunteers and you're overseeing the entire package here, you can assign different users and you can assign different roles and access. The next thing are books, and we talked a little bit about books. I'll come back here in just one second. And then finally, payees. So these are either companies or individuals that you're going to be paying quite frequently. Yeah, I mentioned books. And again, you don't have to have multiple books to use Church360 Ledger, but this is a nice feature to be able to segment some of your things. So again, let's say you have a school and you want to have your school, or you have a daycare attached to your church and you want to have all their finances separated, or perhaps you're a dual parish or you have a sister congregation that you're doing work with. You can segment them and add another church, or if there are specific groups like the men's club, or here, I'll show you just how easy it is to add another one. Just come in here. Let's say I want to add the youth group and have our youth ministry. And then I can set my ministry. Ministry. And then let's say I want to start my months. My fiscal is a January fiscal. I'm going to do that. I just hit submit. And now I've got another book created, and I can keep track of all their finances separately from anything else. Then the final icon here is just your user settings. And this is where you're able to go in and change your email and your password, or log in and log out. And you'll notice something that's kind of neat in this too. If you have a profile picture that is with the website called Gravatar, and that's Gravatar, gravatar.com, it will automatically put your picture into here for you. And it's completely optional though. If you don't have Gravatar, that's fine as well. So last few things here, let me just go back to my home page. So we're back on the main dashboard. Show you just a couple neat other features in here. This is the Omni Bar Search, and it goes directly into different sections here for you. So let's say I want to go into my assets page. So I can do that, and assets are just current or fixed items that your congregation either owns, things like money and building and land and equipment. I can go straight to my assets, or let's say I want to go straight to my expense page. So I'll type that in there. And again, expenses are just, that's the money being spent on things like salaries and utilities or different things here and there. Let's say I want to go to my liabilities page. Liabilities. Type that. And this is really kind of the source of your debt. Oh, did I go to liabilities? I didn't. Oh, let me go back to home. Sorry. But these are the sources of your debt. It could be short-term or long-term liabilities. But the other thing that's nice in this Omni Bar Search as well is that it can also go into specific items. So you see different things already listed down here. Let's say I want to look at my mission fund. I click on there and it will come up for me. Now I can keep going back to my $ home tab, or I can just go back like that and then I'm home. Next to that is new transactions. And we'll go into a little bit more in depth on all of these, but you see things like transfer or deposit or payment or check or journal entry. And we'll go into that. And then lastly in this page is just the dashboard itself. And this is where the entire Ledger program gives a glimpse for you. It looks, like I said, like a lot of information, but there's a lot in here that you can have right at your fingertips. You can also then dig it deeper into each one of these as you just click into them. It'll take you into that area. So the other thing that's great on here too, and the dashboard, is it's very intuitive. You just click through and it can show you different running balances, different date levels. We have this graph area here. And then the last thing on the home page I want to point out, and we have this on all of our Church360 pages, is the circle I, or the information button. And if you click into there, you can either type in your own types of questions, or it would give you suggested questions and their answers to questions. And you see this, send us a message. We're always here for you to be able to get a typewritten message, or the phone number here is 1-800-346-6120. this is always there for you, and it's great help to be able to put your message in there and be very specific with it so that we're able to answer it for you. Okay, so let's start digging into this a little bit. Let's look at new transactions. Let me close out of here so I get it. Let's look at new transactions, and let's just go straight to transfer. And this is obviously, this is where you're transferring money back and forth between accounts. These, within the transfer area, these can only work from asset to asset, or expense to expense, or income to income, or liability to liability. So to fill this out very easily, we've got the memo line. The memo is actually optional, but if you wanted to put a memo line in there, you could. The date is always pre-populated with you for today's date, or you can go in, let's say you're adding some information that you've received and you want to bring it in. It goes right here for you. So you can then pop in a different date. So again, assets to assets. So you see, as I click into here, it will be my assets. It would be things that are liabilities. So just for instance, let's say city county tax, and I want to type in here was $300. I tab over, and then I go in here. Now I'm doing liability to liability. So I have to go in and pick the liability. You see the dollar amount is already put in there for me. But if there was something else in here, let's just say flex spending account, I can do that. And I can go in and I can make the reoccurring transaction, where we can do it every single other third, fourth week, month, or year, on a Sunday or any day of the week. I can do that. I'm not going to make it reoccurring at this stage. But you see, when I do this and I make it liability to liability or asset to asset, on and on, it does even up in my debits and credits. So it makes it proper in here. You cannot type in the wrong thing because it would not allow you to do that. So it makes it almost foolproof in being able to do this for you. All right, so let's see, second count automatically fills in. So you can also hit save, which I didn't do in that regard, but if I hit save, just verify that your information is there. And anytime you can go back in and edit it, but anytime you edit something in here, it will automatically create a journal entry into your general ledger. So again, it's so much easier than making sure that you've kept track of everything, because it's doing it automatically, and you're busy, you've got other things to do. So this is so automatic that it just does it for you right off the bat. Let's go into another thing. Let's look at deposits. So I click into deposits. Again, it's very much like the transfer thing. And I love deposits. It's adding money into our asset accounts, such as our checking or our savings account. So let's just say I'm going to go in here and do a memo. In here now, the only ones that can be are either the assets or your income accounts. So let's type in special gift. And then again, today's date. The payee is, let's say Derek did that for us. And the asset was, let's say, going to Youth Fund Restricted, and it was $100. Again, you see that $100 is automatically put in. If I tab down, it gives me a chance to put additional monies in there, but for the sake of tonight, let's just tab over and say that is going into our general fund. And again, so you see the credits and the debits automatically put into place. So I'm going to hit save, and now that is in. When you hit save, anytime you do anything, you'll see a green bar at the top, so it'll let you know. So you can also go back in there and edit it. You can go back in and void it. Again, all of that going back into your general ledger. You're gonna go back home. Next thing, payments, when we receive payments. And the payment section are used to enter electronic payments, electronic transactions, whether they're online or they're electronic payments that we receive. And with payments now, it's only the asset or the liability that's in there, and expense accounts as well can be used. So similar process, we have our optional memo line, we have our date that you can put in, or again, change the date. We have our payee, which is actually an optional feature as well, but again, as much information as you can put in is to your benefit. And it's the assets or the liabilities. So let's say this was a building fund and $350. Now let's say I go down here and I do this and I go flower fund $200 and then I try to hit save. See, right off the bat, it's telling me the transaction cannot be created because the line items must sum to zero with the expected total. So I can't just put things in without now going over to expense or liability and making sure that I have something in here. So let's say this was just, let's say this was just something on the Visa card, and I'm going to save that. So there you go as well. That transaction was recorded. And again, I can go back in, I can edit it, I can void it, I can copy it. Very simple. We go down to the next one now, and let's look at checks. So as you receive checks in or you put checks out, you can do this as well. So a great example here, let's say for the church, we want to keep track of some new catechism books that we bought. Some new catechism books. Maybe we're picking up a lot of the new 2017 edition for our confirmation class. So I'm going to new catechism books. Going to do that today. And for this one, I'm sending a check to Concordia Publishing House. Check number, we can keep track of our check numbers or you don't have to, but let's say it's check number 12567. Asset was just an unrestricted out of our central trust checking. We've got a big case of them, so it's $450. And we want to actually put this to the church. Now let's call this the ministry expense. Okay, so as I start typing that in, that's an area that I've already designated. So it pops up real quickly for me. I go ministry expense, and then I hit save. And do that right there. So as I go in here, you see now I've got a check, and you see I also have something new in my print queue. So I'm going to have a new check to print as well. So if I just kind of looked at that, it gives me all the information that I need in order to be able to print out checks, including our address, our church's address, who we're paying this to, our check number, our total expenses, etc. So as you print your own checks out, you'd be able to have all this available to you. Also, as we go through here, again, you can edit it, you can copy it, you can void it. So I can go back in here, so I can put an addendum memo. I can see what accounts. I can make this reoccurring. I have all this flexibility right here at my fingertips if this is something that's going to be a continuing type of account or type of check that I need to send. Last thing in here, pardon me, let me get back to my cog, is, sorry, I'm in new transactions, is my journal entry. And here's where you can make any type of corrective entries. So if as you're balancing your items, you notice that a payment or some other transaction is off by a few dollars, you can do a journal entry here to change it. Or it might be bank fees or interest payments or things like this. You can make the journal entry here, and it will be included in your journal log. And this goes across all different entries. So it's very simple. Again, like all the other areas, I add my memo, which is optional. I put in my date, which is pre-populated, or I can move the date back. I put in my payee, which is also optional. I can put in my account and then the debit or credit and save that information. I can also go back in and edit, void, copy, etc. So again, the dashboard gives us this just quick overview of everything and how these transactions are made. Something interesting too, as I go into, let's say, the journals, and I look at my expenses or my assets, or here in my dashboard, I look at my liabilities. Let's just click on that. It digs deeper into it. You see, I have a couple different liabilities right there. If I want to print these out, it now opens up into a different tab for me. And I'm able to print this out and take a look at it. So there you see our printer information come up. I'm just going to close that off the bat right there. Going to go back home. I'm also able to export this into my Excel files, like I said earlier too. So I can do that in a number of different ways. I can export it to Excel, but I can also give it a date range. So I can do, you see this drop-down menu here to the right where it says 2019. I can go in any one of my areas there and do a date range, a year. I can give it a quarter that I just want to see a particular quarter, maybe first quarter or second quarter. I can give it a month. Let's say I just wanted to see February of 2019. And you see behind me, all that is changing. And so it's just showing me specific things for February. Again, how nice this is to be able to just have this right at your fingertips when you're reconciling your bills, when you're trying to do a report, anything you need in that regard. I can also go in here and give it specific ranges. Let's say I want to do January through March or January through May and do that. I have that availability right there as well. I'm going to go back to the top to the general ledger here. Let me get out of here. Pending transactions. I'm just going to go back in and show these some of these books a little bit more. So here's my general ledger. This lists all the transactions and all the changes that I've made across all of my accounts in Church360. Again, depending on which book I show. If I come up here and I want to show the men's club or the youth ministry, well, I just added youth ministry, so there's going to be nothing in there right now. But again, let's say I have a sister congregation or a second church that parish that we work with, you'd see that in there. So while the general ledger is the same, it just changes depending upon the book that you've got open. There's a lot of ways that you can customize your general ledger here, and I'm going to get back to it. A lot of ways that you can customize this. You can do it by the date. Again, it's the same as we just showed with this drop down. I can do years, I can do quarters, I can do months, etc. I can change that, but I can also go in here and change the type. And this is great too, because you see the drop down and the check boxes. I can click off of all of them, and let's just say I want to see deposits that are made. I list all the deposits that were made as I go down through the year that I've assigned. And go back into that. Let's say I just want to see the checks. I can do that as well. Click out of my deposit. There are all my checks right there. So I have this great flexibility to be able to do things just exactly how I want to see them. I get back into all of those. You also see the different check numbers. And then this is great, payees. So I can go in and look at just specific payees. So again, just for sake of this, let's just say I want to see Ameren Electric, which is our local electric company here in St. Louis, or in the state of Missouri, so I have all that. I can see this, and this is really nice too. I can group payees. So let's say I have Concordia and Ameren, and I want to see our internet services. I can go in here and you see the group, the link, group by payee right there. I click on it. My report then shows in my general ledger just those specific payees that I have. And again, I can export this to an Excel file, be able to print this, be able to look at it. Let's see how that opens up for us. See, right there, I have it all in Excel, and I can print that out or modify it as I need to be able to do something different with it. I'm going to get out of ungroup all those. The next thing you see is account. Same type of thing. I can pick specific accounts to look at. I can also group specific accounts to look at it. I have my memos here if I was adding any type of memos, and then I have my amounts. The next one to go down to and take a look at is income and expense again. Gives me a little bit of time here. This also allows us, so this is a summary of our income. So it's those revenue like offering and interest that we receive, it's rental income, etc. And our expenses, the spending that we do, whether it's salaries or materials or utilities by specific accounts. So it displays a breakdown of our actual versus our budgeted. And there are, again, a number of ways to customize this view as well. One thing you'll notice, you see these little triangles to the left of everything. These are drop downs. So if I want to just look at just straight income and expense, I've got just a top line person and they just want to see our income and expenses, I can do that view for them. Or let's say I want to start digging down a little bit into it. So I'm going to click on it right there. I'm going to click, there we go. And that drops everything down. So I can take another look at this. We have our date picker again over here where I can pick the specific month, time, date, quarter, everything of that nature. This is pretty much universal throughout. But then we also then have the year-to-date budget that we're able to take a quick look at, the year-to-date actuals that we're able to look at, and then look at the percent of budget where we compare our actual to our budget as a percentage, and then the remaining, which shows the difference. Again, the ability to export to Excel or to print. The next area here is chart of accounts. And think of chart of accounts as just the collection of all the different accounts that you have. It just shows everything in here, my assets again, all the different funds that I have listed that I've developed and I use. This report just really gives us a good picture of your church's overall financial standing. And as Dave mentioned, as we're very aware of in here, we want to be very good stewards of those donations that we've received and any type of assets that we have, as well as any type of expenses that we incur as well. So customizable again, we take a look at the starting balance, we take a look at our ending balance, we take a look at our debits, the total debits based on our selected range, the total credits that we have based on our selected range, the changes plus or minus, which is the difference between our starting and ending balance, and then the percentage change, which again is the difference between our starting and ending balance. We can export that to Excel or print those out like the other ones. The balance sheet, as we take a look at the balance sheet, this just gives us a nice summary of all of our assets and our liabilities. Assets less liabilities really do provide a picture of our church's equity, how we stand right now with our equity. And there's a variety of columns here as well. The drop downs, we can modify some of those, customize it to our view. We have our starting balance based on that selected range that we picked. We have our ending balance based on that selected range. Debits and credits based on those selected range. The changes plus or minus the change percent. And then way down at the bottom, again, depending on how you have your screen set up, assets less liabilities. And this really is great because it just shows the differences here. And again, gives you that good overview to be sure that you're being good stewards with everything. Let's go take a look at the event log. I mentioned that everything we do is put into this event log. And this is just fantastic to have everything in one simple, easy to find, trackable place for you. And it's going to be very convenient when you're going into auditing and you're taking a look at different items. It also shows you the actions, the type of action. And again, you can customize your view on it. If you have multiple users or if you're the primary user, you can see all the different people having access to this and putting in these actions. And then there's a message, whether it's creating a new transaction or let's say you went in and you updated something within the budget and you're changing the amount of a budget item, that will be listed for you automatically. And then you're able to export that to Excel or to print that out. So I know we've gone through a lot of things here, and this software is just very robust and intuitive. And as you can see, it's pretty powerful. So just imagine how you might be able to use this Ledger software and how the automation of it, the ease of use might free you up to do many different types of things within your ministry. If you're a volunteer, it frees you up for more family time. If you're paid staff, it allows you to do more within your church, within your job. Yeah, and there's something to think about as we wrap up here tonight. You know, there are usually two types of people who watch, take the time to watch a webinar like this. You know, there are those who don't do anything and they just keep using the same old tools that they've got and that they've always used, and they keep getting the same results. And then there are those who will watch something like this that they've seen and they'll put it into practice, and they begin to see immediate changes to how they do things and new results. So tonight is a great opportunity to try the free 37-day trial that we offer with Church360 Ledger. And Dave will explain a little bit more about that. But just to see if you're able to save some time and be more accurate using Ledger. So as I'm going to wrap up here, and we're in pretty good shape, it's about quarter till, so we've got some time for some questions or maybe even to wrap up a little bit early tonight. You know, as I said, there's so much that you can do with Church360 Ledger. And this overview webinar really does just begin to scratch the surface. We'll be offering more classes and more webinars like this. There's a pretty robust support page on our Church360 Ledger website that does have training and some other documents and things like this. There's also a great training manual that's available for purchase. So when you do get the software, you can get a training manual that includes a lot of this type of information in it. Just great for reference and other things like this. So be looking for more announcements to come up for more webinar opportunities. And again, we really do thank you for attending this tonight. We know you have choices of doing other things. So taking the time to have us walk you through and just familiarize you with this software really does mean a lot to us, and we appreciate it. And if we can be of any further help, please, by all means, don't hesitate to contact us, either the support folks at Concordia Technology Solutions or any of us here with Concordia Publishing as well. If we don't know the answer, we'll make sure to find the right person to help get that answer to you. And there may even be a few questions that have popped up tonight. There may not be, but regardless, I'm going to hand it back to Dave at this point. I'm going to switch back to his screen and let him finish up this webinar. Again, we thank you very much. We hope that this is helpful for you. We hope that you find something of value here. And if you have any questions, please let us know. So I'm going to hand it back to Dave. I got to do a couple quick things here as far as changing the screen, and then I will get out of here. So Dave, I'm going to change presenter to you and see if that works.
All right, Ken, I think I've got that here.
You got it.
So hopefully everyone can see my screen again. So, and I think they can. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to take us then to the next slide here in front of us. What I want to show on my screen is if you were to start the trial, one of two things would happen on the very first opening screen when you started. One, you would get this screen here. And you would either say, yes, I have Shepherd staff, and maybe I want to go ahead and bring in my backup data from Shepherd staff, and it will import your chart of accounts, balances, and well, really what it's for most folks, it's going to bring in their chart of accounts with their current balances only. So that's primarily what it's going to do for most folks. For other people that do not have Shepherd staff, they're going to be able to create their first book, and they're going to name their first book, set the starting month of their fiscal year, and then enter the start date for the book. So most likely, even if they started now, they probably want to set that start date back a couple different months. They could even set it back even to January. So it just depends on when you want to do that, but typically you'll want to go ahead and do that. Now, if you would be importing your Shepherd staff information, it's going to bring in all of your books and this type of information that you'll see there. So if you were to get started with that 30-day free trial, you would go to the website, the360ledger.com, and you're going to be able to click on an orange button that says Start Free Trial. So it is a free 37-day trial. Now you might ask, well, why in the world would you have a 37-day trial? That seems a little odd. Wouldn't you just have a 30-day trial? Well, the reason why we've extended that to be 37 days is because typically you're going to do business throughout, all your transactions within a month, and then you might want to go ahead and reconcile all of the different things that have come in as far as the payments, and so that way it gives you a little bit additional time to do a reconciliation from your statement that you would get from your bank. So that just kind of gives you that flexibility to go ahead and do that at that time. So, but we certainly do appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to put up my contact information here on the screen so that you have that there. You certainly feel free to contact me if you have any questions in the future. It looks like that I think we've answered most of the questions that would have come in tonight. And again, if you would like to start that free trial, you are more than welcome to start the free trial. Just go to 360ledger.com and you can click on the orange button to start the free trial. So looks like I don't think I see any other additional questions that anyone has posed. So I do want to thank you again for your time. Thanks, Ken, for presenting the information here for us today and giving us that guided tour, that inside look of Church360 Ledger. Again, hope you all have a wonderful evening, a good rest of your week, and do get in touch with us if we can help you either to get started on a free trial or answer any other particular questions that you might have in regards to the Church360 Ledger. So hope you have a wonderful day, rest of your day, and God bless.